Hello, hello, hello. I'm not sure what you can see here because it seems my videos after they're posted, they kind of readjust where my head ends. So I'm trying to guess here, and I have a guest tonight. Yay, this is awesome. Okay, so is this public? Yes. Good. Okay, and you are watching. And awesome, and I'm adding my guest. Oh, my biggest fans are already here. This is incredible. Hey, Martin, good to see you. Oh my God, great. And we have Jacqui here. Can you just readjust a little bit
Okay.
your camera so we can see your eyes as well? No, oh yes, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening to you, Navid. Absolutely. What time is it over in Pakistan? Um, 11? Is it? It's 10 p.m. right? It's 10 p.m.
Wow.
over you over at your place, Navid. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Fantastic to have you here, Jacqui. We are both so excited about this. So, first, short story about how we
hmm
met. And so I reached out to Jacqui just because she made a comment on artificial intelligence somewhere. And so, hey, Suda. So I was very excited to see a woman in technology because I am a geek myself. And as you guys know, I am an IT engineer. So I said, okay, this could be interesting, you know. So I had no idea who I was reaching out to, right? And then we got on a call and I still had no idea. And then I asked Jacqui to say who she was. And then she started talking about all the achievements and everything else that she was doing. And then I figured out, oh my God, I'm in a pickle here. Wow, this is huge. And what also got me interested, apart from what you do, naturally, was the fact that you told me, you know, Alex, I can't go on video here because I can't show you where I am at, and you can see what I'm surrounded by. Okay, this is gonna be awesome. So I'm very excited about this interview. And I'm very excited to see you, you know, on camera too.
Yeah, in an environment where I'm allowed to show
um,
you where I am. So I've deliberately moved there this afternoon.
yes, I specifically asked for a good environment. Oh, Suna is woman in tech. Awesome, awesome.
Great.
Naveed, I don't think I don't think the video is stuck. We're getting information that it's stuck. Can anybody confirm that?
Oh.
Or that it's okay? Yeah, for you it's
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
Jacqui?
fine by me. I can hear you and it's not stuck for me.
Okay.
So sorry if it is for somebody else.
Right. Then I think it's good.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to make it short, your introduction. So I don't know if I can. So.
Hi Leslie, good to see you.
Leslie. Okay, awesome.
I'm
Thanks,
Martin.
Josh, for letting us know. Okay, so Jacqui is an international web scientist and was awarded an honorary doctorate of science in recognition of her international web science work. She's recognized as one of the top 10 global Internet of Things innovators and an independent industry analyst for the Internet of Things. She's one of the 4 Internet of Things leaders advising the European Commission on their IoT strategy in a GDPR-enabled Europe. She's personally recognized as one of the UK's most influential women in tech. Woohoo! And she's one of the most powerful, in one of the most 100 most powerful entrepreneurs
Yes.
in UK. It's so difficult to say that. Yes. To make it short, I'm not going to read the awards. Um, most influential web scientist, science researcher, one of the 34 IoT influencer on Twitter, and one of the 20 global entrepreneurs to watch, a UK smart city leader. And I'm just going to stop here before people leave. Fantastic to have you here. So,
Thanks for all the
first
hearts,
of all,
folks.
let's.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. So let's crack your bank code first,
Oh, right,
and
yes.
then I'm going to refer to it maybe once
Mm-hmm.
or twice. So your personality code. So Jacqui here is a huge fan of bank since you saw it, and her bank code is it's, I remember that, NKAB, which means she's a nurturer, and you're going to see how it fits with empathy economy, which has the nurture basically in the name, right? And then she's a geek like me, a woman in technology, which is what the K stands for. It's a very, very strong K. And an N with a K and then an A means that you can do amazing, incredible, big things like Jacqui here is doing exactly. And exactly like me, you have a very, very tiny blueprint in you. So, which means basically we're not very well organized. We let people organize stuff for us, and we like things organized.
Yes.
But not necessarily.
But I'm not wedded. I'm not wedded to being the one that does it. I'm absolutely. I delegate heavily on that score.
Exactly. Same here. Same here. Awesome. Okay. So the first thing, I'm going to let everybody know what Internet of Things is. So we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, how we're already using it, and what we're not seeing, and what risks it brings with it, and how Internet of Things influences the business. So the profiling is bank code, Sudha. I will post a link to where you can profile your personality as well to see if it matches Jacquis' personality. And so the Internet of Things, for those who don't know what that is, it's basically oh, sorry, I had it written down. It's the extension of internet connectivity into physical devices and everyday objects. So basically your smart watches, your heart rate monitors, your pacemakers for your heart are connected to the internet. Your keys to your car, which you can park with, for example, remotely. Your scale, your home devices, like your sprinklers, your security cameras, all of that is connected to the internet, and that's what we call the Internet of Things. And the reason for that is because if we define the Internet of Things as simply the point in time when more things or objects were connected to the internet than people, it was born around 2009, between 2008 2009. So that means 11 years ago, we had more devices connected to the internet than people. Seriously. So
yeah, and that was the 20th anniversary of the World Wide Web. And so Tim Berners-Lee invited me into the Royal Society in London, because there was only 18% of the world online at that point, but we knew we'd reached the point where we could accelerate the purpose of the web itself, which was to allow humanity to understand its own truths. And so that was, and it was the 30th anniversary of the web. And so I founded my company at that point, and it was the 30th anniversary of the web on the 12th of March this year. So in that 10 years where we started from what you've described, Alex, the whole thing has really taken off. So you're right to point it back to the 20th anniversary of the web.
Exactly. So the first question is, I've already announced that there's going to be a big disruptive change in how business is conducted. But first, how does Internet of Things influence business specifically?
So we're very used to in what I will call the digital economy, as opposed to what I'm talking about, which is the empathy economy, and that aligns to what we talk about from a web science point of view as Web 2.0, and that was about how relevant am I, not how connected am I and what am I connected to, but how relevant am I. That's when the social platforms came into being and achieved their dominance. But actually, as you said, from 2009, that hasn't been true. And I have loads of resources on this, but my doctorate was founded on the fact in 2013, I proved that to be untrue, that the social platforms were not the way forward. And so essentially what it means is the way we're conducting our businesses digitally has already ended. We're unconsciously unaware of that, but actually it's already finished. And there's going to be some huge moves in 2020 that accelerate that. And that's a whole, there's a whole piece on that. And one of those is artificial intelligence that we've been discussing.
Right. So we decided to start the discussion with a disturbing article, and I'm just going to read small bits and pieces of it. It's an article from that I found in the New York Times. So the subject of the story is a man called Bill who lives in San Francisco, who has a cat named Socks. Only the cat is not a real cat. She lives on a tablet and she makes him so happy that when he talks about her arrival in his life, he begins to cry. He knows that Socks is artifice. He knows she's operated by workers around the world who are watching, listening, and typing out her responses, which sound slow and robotic, but her consistent voice in his life has returned him to his faith. He says, she's brought my life back to life. And that's not a single case. No. This is just one for the story. All of this has led to a curious new reality. Human contact is becoming a luxury gold. Rich people are now paying not to use screens, are paying schools without screens for the children not to use screens. It's all already happening, guys. The physical experience of learning, living, and dying is increasingly mediated by screens, which are cheaper than people. There are fleets of psychologists and neuroscientists on staff at big tech companies working to hook eyes and minds to the screen as fast as possible and for as long as possible. So we're used to using a screen since we're very, very young. And so human contact is rare. Now, this is heartbreaking to me, really. 2 less sentences. But the holdup is this: not everybody wants it, unlike other kinds of luxury products, which is even more scary. Not everybody wants the human contact. They flee to what they know, to screens, which is like fleeing to fast food. We live in a culture of increasing isolation. People can form a bond very easily with anything that talks with them, and they don't see a real difference in terms of building a relationship. This is really, really painful, and I wanted to add something. Okay, I don't remember what now. But the human contact is rare. This is truly the artificial intelligence is influencing customer service, right? Which is normally operated by people, right? So, what is your intake on this? How does the empathy economy? What is empathy economy, and how does it address this issue here of isolation? Oh, I know what I wanted to add. Both me and Jacqui, we agree, and in fact, we know that the reason why we are brought to this world is to connect and collaborate, and only teamwork can create things. So when we live in isolation, we cannot create, which means we're just going to decrease our numbers and slowly die if we live in isolation. So this is a very, very serious problem. Okay. Back to you, sorry. I'm not talking.
I mean, I think it's a great case study because it's a specific thing that we can all understand. You know, we can imagine perhaps an elderly relative or a neighbor who might be in that position, perhaps a neighbor who doesn't have family. And actually, you know, loneliness is one of the key conditions that we're experiencing a huge rise in our society. And that in itself is difficult. But when you think of the consequences of no human contact, you know, the one thing that sentient beings have is that ability to respond to one another. And so the idea that that gets removed by technology, my 6th book was about this, and the framing that I use always when I talk about the digital economy becoming in this middle world, which is not where it's going to stay, before it transitions to the empathy economy, is the technology has been the outcome. How can we create an app? How can we create a kitten that can interact? It's about the technology. How can I sell a technology that hooks me into Facebook, that buys things, that I respond to ads, that monetizes, all the rest of it? Whereas actually the Internet of Things can't be controlled that way because there's no central point of control. These platforms and these ways of working are effectively what was, and they're attempting to be relevant in the Internet of Things, and that's a temporary position, because actually there is no way of creating influence in the Internet of Things other than by human contact. Right. And so the empathy economy is about how we will leverage the technology, how the technology will enable us as humans to solve some of the biggest problems, how the machines will do the hard work, how the robots will work for us. And we have a phrase as web scientists that we use, which you may come across it. I find that once you're not unconscious to this, it's amazing how many things that pop up on a timeline you've never seen before, that people recommend a book that talks about this. We call it Web We Want, and that's about the human contact being the almost the heart of the Internet of Things. So my position as a digital leader in the European Commission was around the citizen of Europe being at the heart of the Internet of Things. And that's because the meantime, as these platforms and services are trying to find a way to be part of the Internet of Things, they're attempting to make the technology the point. This one's cooler, this one's, let's have the latest phone, let's have the, the tablet that connects to your Alexa or whatever. And actually that's not what's going to happen. That is a temporary thing, because we have over 50% of humanity already on the web itself, already able to move into the empathy economy. And so those of us that are building for that empathy economy are actually building for us as humans. What do we need? What does it mean to us? And Tim Berners-Lee, who's the founder of the World Wide Web, his original intention when he created when he built on top of the internet to create the World Wide Web that we use to do all of our business work today as part of these digital platforms, was for humanity to understand its own truth. And that happens by the human connection. So I talked about Web 2.0 earlier, which is, how relevant am I? The world of Google, SEO rankings, all of those things. But Web 3.0, which is what the empathy economy is, it's when the Internet of Things has overtaken the capabilities and we've moved on from that, is called the Web of Resonance. And the reason it's called that is because it's the human resonance, it's the energy that actually changes our world. And this isn't a theory. I'm not telling you about a theory. I've actually done this for real twice, and so created those networks that leverage changes to the world. And the one that you're aware of, so you're conscious about, but unconsciously not knowing what it means, is when I co-founded the data journalism industry. And there are 34 million citizens that work in and around those messages in the world every single day. And that was created by just two people having a vision for how, the Internet of Things can work for all of us. And essentially, the outputs of that. It's the Panama Papers, it's the Paradise Papers, it's breaking the opiate scandal. It's actually the fourth one that you don't know about yet, but it's coming. So actually, it's already here, the empathy economy. It's a way in which we as humans establish that connection and create that web we want, leverage the technology, make it enable the change we want to see in the world. So.
Right, and so the reason you also are so interested in bank is because it's all about creating the human connections too. So this is like an awesome thing, I guess, for should we talk about the four personalities
yeah,
right
we
now,
can
maybe?
do, because I sort of have a message in the people I've worked with. I work closely with millions of people across the world. I know that seems impossible, but not in the Internet of Things. I've actually based it around the bank system. So from a point of view of what you and I are talking about tonight, Alex, there is something about what I've just described that relates directly to that system. So if you want to talk about that, I actually can wrap this message in that context.
Please do. Just start. I've heard your message. It's awesome. It's speaking the language of four personalities. Let's do it.
So for those of us who are predominant nurturers, if you're feeling excited now, you're right to feel that. You possibly feel a sense of relief. Thank goodness it's not going to stay like this, because we're in the transition phase, and some of what's going on isn't good, and I would understand that. As nurturers, we'll thrive. That's why I've called it the empathy economy, and effectively as nurturers, we see that change. We just don't connect it to our businesses. The things that are sort of slightly out of reach and don't quite know how to put our businesses in the place to unlock or leverage that opportunity I've just described. But I think anybody that's on this call or watches this as replay, as a nurturer, will go, I sort of know that. I don't know what to do about it for myself, but I sort of know it. And what I'm here to say tonight is, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you're seeing that transition and knowing that you've almost been pre-positioned for this. You've almost got to that. You just haven't connected your business to it. And the other thing I would say is the action takers. I know you want in immediately. I know you want to start in an hour, or probably not as long as that. And I know you want to know, well, what do I do? What's in it for me? And actually, we can get to that, but we have to understand what benefit we're bringing to the empathy economy. And that isn't a fire ready and then an aim scenario. It actually has to understand how we transition our offerings and our talents into this new economy, and how we make the tech, the Internet of Things, enable that to come into the world. And for those of you who are sort of you know, you're looking at the knowledge types, I suppose the knowledge types are like, right, okay, I need to prepare. What is that prepare all about? You've started. That's the thing I would say about that. The fact that you're watching this, that Alex has connected you with me and with all that's going on in the world, means you're already preparing. I guarantee you, for a serendipity point of view, if one of my quantum physicists was here, they'd give you an equation. I don't have that equation because I'm not a quantum physicist. I'm actually an aerospace engineer. But there is an equation that explains the fact that once you're exposed to this as knowledge types, you can actually, that human resonance that I talked about, the thing that the Internet of Things is all about, that actually connects you in. And that's part of that whole energy of the way in which the world works, the way in which the universe works. And I think that, you know, if you're a blueprints type, it's advance warning, don't panic. I imagine that something like this is the force of change I'm talking about. And I will use Tim Berners-Lee's words here because they're absolutely right. We're not talking about a step change here. We're talking about a leap. This is a change that humanity has never known. This is something that humanity has never experienced. And this tech is the enabler for it. But you know, the idea, the thing about this is, it doesn't matter if you're late to this, if you've been trying to ignore it and hope it went away, because it's a safe space. That's the difference about some of the other tech changes to what the Internet of Things will do. And I think, you know, from a point of view of, if you're somebody that looks at this from a blueprint point of view, know that you're with the right crowd, because actually we need what this change is it manifests in all of us. But because the reason I'm such a supporter of the bank system is it will take all of us as well. You know, so I do the piece I can do. Alex brings her gifts. You will bring your gifts. But it requires that blend, because we all have some of those capabilities in us. The dominant ones, we're good with them. We all learn to either work with somebody, like we were talking about at the top of this, with, I don't do that, organize something, I get somebody else to do that, because that's just not something I'm good at. But actually I make sure that my talents are sort of put in where they can be most effective. So I think the thing about it is, the fact that you're here, the fact that you're connected, means you're in that safe space, and actually you've got the advance warning. And it's literally going to be a wave that we're going to ride forward. And it's already begun. We've already discussed it. Actually started 10 years ago when I started my company, thinking, oh, I must get onto this. Obviously my action taker went in stratosphere and said, I must get onto this. I must actually do something about it. But the thing that Alice has described in that case study is really, really important, because that's what in transition can happen if we don't bring our talents to this. Because the idea, I mean, it makes me so sad to hear that story, but that story is prevalent, while people who think in that way and, you know, are using technology as the outcome, do what they do. But then it's time for us to say, well, what talents do we bring, and what can we do to move our businesses, whatever anybody else is doing, into that empathy economy model.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said, and very well summary for all the personality types. I didn't tell her to do it.
No,
like
no,
that.
I made some notes on it, because I know it needs all of us. I absolutely know it needs all of us and our talents, whichever the personality types. You know, it won't. 3 out of 4 won't work, because we won't get the right answer, and it will just take more time. Yeah. It takes the blend. I can absolutely prove that. The web science that I built, that I was awarded the honorary doctorate of, that proved that for real, and that was the first time that ever been proven. And so I know it for sure. And so I made some notes about, you know, as each of those personality types, where people might be starting from this, and literally saying this is going to be an awesome journey. And for all of us, we'll bring all our talents, and that'll be the answer.
Right, that reminds me of how I discovered when I was a member of a team and a leader of my own team. When I was still in the rebel phase, I wanted everybody to like me, and my manager was hiring people. Like, he had different types of people in the team, and I couldn't quite agree with that. It was many years ago. And I was saying, what are these two doing here? Like, blueprints, what do we need them for? And then yeah, they saved my ass, basically. So, and then that's where I started seeing how we need to collaborate. Like, if you just blueprint, if you just nurture it, if you just an action taker, nothing ever is going to come out of it. It's going to be so flawful.
Well, it's just not going to work. Yeah, I think that's true in the digital world, but in the Internet of Things, it'll have no impact whatsoever. So that's at the point at which the personality types and that blend, that's the leveler. Because actually, we won't get them. We will end up with a scenario like the case study that you gave us, about that scenario. And whilst there are some people that will be happy with that, the majority won't. That's not a life to live, is it?
Right. And each personality type will, as I understand it, will understand its values. So it's not like the nurturer is going to be the doormat. No, they're going to have their own place. They're going to be on the pedestal, as every other type of personality is going to know where they fit in. Finally, this is such a relief.
I think it is a relief, actually. That is what people say to me. It's like, finally, this is going to make sense, because it just looks so chaotic. But my web science work, my doctorate work, I actually went back to the Dark Ages, prior to 500 BC, and I've charted the history of the populations. And these cycles occur every 400 years. We're in a very, very special time. And the last two cycles ago, we signed the Magna Carta and our democracies were born. And then 400 years ago, America had another plan and the War of Independence happened. Now, I'm just picking out two particular points in our human journey. But the chaos that we all see and the disintegration of the rules actually is a cycle that pervades through human history. So my day job, my current day job, is actually architecting 2400, which I can do because I've gone all the way back to 500 BC. So I know the sort of core constants and context for what we need to do for 2400 based on our human understanding. Now, not at a very detailed level like I'm talking now, but to understand, well, what might the technology be, and therefore what might we do with it? And I probably will have to take the hit on that one and say, yes, well, I won't be here, but yes, we'll be off planet, because actually that's where we're working. We're working in the cosmos, not on a particular planet for 2400.
Oh, that's another interesting point. Wow. So glad that there's somebody looking, ahead of their lifespan. So many of us don't do that, and just a note that came to me, like, more and more people are trying to look forwards, and my friends are getting so worried about the amount of plastic we're using, for example. It seems to be a simple thing, but it's really is not. So the human awareness is really, really growing around the fact that we need to look way, way, way forward, like many generations forward. And I really love that. My friends are starting to eat less meat, etc. So, which is very, very heartwarming.
And I mean, that's basic science. We've actually, from a human condition point of view, understood cause and effect, our impact and imprint on the planet, and we're starting to make personal choices that lead to that greater effect. So I had the opportunity to see David Attenborough when I spoke at Davos this year, and he basically put One Planet together because his question to Netflix was, how many people tune in? And they said 1 billion people. I'll bypass all the governments. I'll just go to them. So he created One Planet because he knows that we're in a place where we, from a human point of view, are looking beyond ourselves. That is the empathy economy.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so when people want to learn more, so the launch is in the beginning of November this
well, it's
year,
end
right?
of October. What I've done is I've timed it because I executed this success plan in December 2016 to understand how we would reposition not just business models but the whole commercial offering around it. And in that time, the UK had decided to leave the European Union. So we will exit the European Union in the UK at the end of October. So my launch is timed to launch and for all the entrepreneurs that are coming on this journey with me to be with me by the end of October. So we start November, which is when we're effectively free from the constraints of a European membership and its benefits, of course, on this new journey. And we start that new journey in November with the Internet of Things as the first entrepreneurs to form that collective for the empathy economy. So I'm so excited about that. I've done this once before. There were 250 of us that started in a disused area of London called Shoreditch. And that's now 5.6 million companies from the 250. How awesome is that? I can't wait. I've been here before. I know how exciting it's going to be. But I'm very keen to make sure, because this change, like I say, it's not a step change. It is a leap. And actually getting away from technology being the outcome and it being about the tech. Quite frankly, I don't care about the tech. It needs to work. But other than that, it's about what does it do for us. That's actually something that's very difficult for practically anybody to do. But the thing that I was really cheered by with being recognised as one of the top 10 global Internet of Things influencers is there's 2 females in that list of 10. That is the first time that actually there's 2 of us. The lone female is as
20% of women.
I know. That is the thing. So I work with when I formed the company to actually understand this thing 10 years ago, I worked with Generation Z. They're between the ages of 26 and 16. And by 2020, they will influence 20% of the economic spend. So if Generation Z is not part of your business, it needs to be, because 40% of your market is walking away next year. Another reason to launch in 2019 to get the entrepreneurs coming on the journey ready for Generation Z. But the people I work with today, they're between the ages of 15 and 5. They're called Generation Alpha, and they're the children of the millennials. So if you're over 26, you're raising one of these children potentially. And I don't need to tell you how different they are. And so they're the anchor for the change. Whilst this whole thing has been done to understand the talents of Generation Z that they bring to the world, actually the delivery of what we deliver for what I'm calling 1 million founders in November is for Generation Alpha. So if you're raising children or you've got nephews, nieces, that type of thing, between 15 and 5, it's built for them.
Right, exactly. I didn't mention, guys, share the video. This is about building awareness of a big change that's coming. It's an incredible change where the human will be in the center of technology, which is a necessary change if we are about to survive as humanity, basically. So it's super important that this message gets out there. And if you want to know more, Jacqui, please post a link to your group. So there's going to be a link in the comments to the Facebook group. It's free for anybody, any entrepreneur who wants to join. And then when it's launched, you will be the first ones to be already in there. So you will have a huge change to become influencer.
And that's really what it's about, Alex. What I want to say is I've realized with my own work since 2016, that actually we needed a safe space. The future safe space is not on Facebook, obviously. But for now, I want to make sure that those people that are building businesses on Facebook get the opportunity to move into this new space. So it's a closed environment. We run it as a closed Facebook group. And we do have, as you know, we have some sort of fairly in-depth discussions about what it means and how we're going to navigate this and how we all bring our talents to it. So yes, I mean, that's the purpose of this, awareness raising, and to say that we're on our way and making the move to the empathy economy. And really anybody, not just anybody listening or watching this on replay, but anybody you know that knows that you think can benefit from this, share it, because we'll go together as a group, and it's just going to be awesome.
Yay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the time that you've devoted to me. We will be in touch. And it was wonderful to have you here tonight. This is a great show. And to all of you that were watching, thank you so much for staying with us, and thank you for your comments. And I will post a link to the bank code so that you can crack your personality.
Do that.
And Jacqui will post Jacqui will post the link to the group. Thank you so much.
Okay, great to see you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.